So have a good night, bro. Bye. Have a good one. Hold on. Let me see you. Yep. Bye.
Yo, what's good with y'all? Probably see me thumbnail. Yeah, it's over. Sad to say, but Durk ain't getting nowhere. Had a good pumping earlier. I'm gonna try to cut down my intake. Chuck getting into dinner. Y'all ate already, or that's too late? Too late for y'all, right? Cause I know y'all be working and stuff. Thank you. Appreciate those likes, guys. Yeah, Me or Dirk? Yeah, you know Dirk is finished. The feds just do some new, whole other charges today. It's like, talk about it, you know, everybody been saying it. Oh, really? That's what's up, man. I gotta come out there. Yeah, we gotta hang out, man. One day, bro, I'll come see you. What part you in? If you don't mind me asking. You know, I got people that's local, you know, around here. Oh yeah, you too? Yeah, man. It's International Day. Needed that right there, you know, it just picked me right back up. Yeah, hopefully, you know, it's a full start. You know, they just trying to get him to finish up and be done with it so they don't got to try to hold it against you, you know. It's a stressful process just going through, you know, going back and forth. So I can only imagine, you know, how they handling it when they going through it. But, you know, it is what it is. Hey, I see what's going on in the chat, Charlie. How was your day today? You know, we're just getting back to being over here on this page because usually on the main one, so sometimes I come off the main line just to check y'all out. You know what I'm saying? It ain't enough time in the world. But you know, I be in and out. Mainly in like a burger. Oh, I got something in my bed. Yeah, I'm pretty messy eater, so no surprise there. I really want to cut it. What y'all think? Just clean shave all around. Clean cut. Checking this down. Try to save a little something, you know. But yeah, man. Going down to the spot tonight. get live, get right, provide y'all with some plays, some picks, could look at some games, because they got a lot of sports, the World Cup, the soccer, that's one of the phenoms, that everybody's a fanatic now, they actually watch it, so they know all about it. They could just be professionals and tell you what you need to know. But I've been, on my basketball, the Knicks, they took off finally. Yeah, and then, the football player that just got into it, he had his situation, so it's a lot in the news right now, that we could go over and dissect. We do it from time to time. But, never mind that. Gotta make sure, we checking on the chat. Because I know that y'all been coming in lately, y'all been engaging and, that's what they want to see. That's the key, really. Once, you progressing as a creator and you could attach, certain channels and have a way to engage, that's really when they want to try to hear you and what you got to say, you know what I'm saying? So that's why when you prepared and you actually got something of value, it's clear and, it can be an even exchange, this is a market, so you got to understand how to sell, and how to get paid, how to create the products as well, it's all a part of an elaborate, lucrative group of supporters, the way that we create and we do what we do because we know that we need as many brains as possible, so we could create that storm, that brainstorm, and give you that brain food, you're going to eat. And you're going to be able to perform better, what I'm saying? When you can actually think and you have the spaces, to create and, link those chains together, what I'm saying? Never mind. And, you get better with time because everything else is clear, it's a piece of art, And, people, they have their own ways of hearing and producing so that, it's actually a production that we are using, and it's not just something that we are, glossing over because it can get confusing when you have, multiple people trying to be in charge of something. Yeah, nah, we just, going over, how these networks, these platforms, as you get older, you start to understand, how to engage, you know what I'm saying, and how to use it to your advantage because it's actually, a display, it's a page of different type of, manners and what have you that you can put up there and, you could create banners, you could create all type of digital, marketing, to go with that as well. So That's one of the things that I try to teach people. When you starting it from scratch, like you gotta be able to target and actually produce something of value back. You know what I'm saying? Instead of just putting spam and just posting as much as you can. Like you actually want to have key points to be able to create that demand of supply. You know what I'm saying? And then you just skyrocket. You fly right up. You know what I'm saying? Like profits, network, social, just the elements of the earth.
Are you alive? Oh, that's
Yeah.
cool.
And you know, it's just one of those things that you progress and you are able to make the best of it. So hey, Sade, how you doing today? I appreciate that. Yeah, yeah. It's a beautiful thing when you can bring it all together and you are able to finesse something that you never even imagined was possible. But you get more notoriety as possible, and you get more opportunities down the line. When you continue to put yourself on the line, and you know what I'm saying, like you're vulnerable, but you know what I mean. You know how to make the time pass, and you know how to actually profit, and you know what I'm saying, give back. You know what I'm saying, and you have to try to capture that moment because things could get misconstrued sometimes, and then it's like you're trying to highlight the things that's gonna make people come into your rooms and your lives and all of that and see like, okay, I'm learning different points and different levels that I'm going to every time because I'm choosing to make the choice at the end of the day, and I'm not letting it just get ran over without actually going through it in every little detail and say, okay, did I actually apply it in real life? You know what I'm saying? Did I actually go through the plays and make the critiques? Because this is why we are creators and we do it the way that we do, because it's natural when you speak, but also you know the angles that's capturing you and the lighting, it's all gonna be unique. So that's something that you want to look into when you buying your equipment, or when you have your setup, so that you can actually make sure that it's getting heard, and that people can observe it and really get the gist of it. You know what I'm saying? Because I was nervous, of course, when I started, like most people, and once you actually have that support and you got that system there, that's gonna be your backbone throughout those times. You could kind of tweak it if you don't have it, but most important is gonna be the design now, your graphics, editing. This is why you have different people you could pay, or people who already know and can show you how to implement those things, because it's a strategy. You know what I'm saying? And you got to be vocal at the same time when you're battling and when you're struggling, because you're not just gonna reach peak in the first month, first year. You know what I'm saying? You might see certain little milestones, but at the end of the day, it's the consistency that's gonna be the key, to making it and putting, your best all in one, because you wouldn't be able to, focus in and actually draw from that pile if you wasn't going back and noticing, okay, how did I start off, and how am I finishing once, I put everything in. Now I could tap, into a whole nother side that I didn't even know, existed, Thank you for that. Like, I see the hearts in the chat. Appreciate that. So, yeah, that's just like my type of style. I just talk when I'm not, doing my shows or, competitions, things like that. It's like you still gotta compete with yourself. You still gotta try to beat your mind, to be sharp as a knife, you know what I mean? It's like you gotta carve the bad. That way you just left with the positive, you know what I'm saying? And then you work through that, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's gonna be the first thing you think about whenever you try to make, whatever happened, and you try to put it together. And now it's like you got the plan in order, to make you better. So, that's just one of those things that is sort of give or take, you know what I'm saying? It's all about how you gonna dedicate and how you gonna push yourself, you know what I mean? And it's all standard, it's nothing that's really better or more, exhilarating than the other. I mean, of course, when you got productions now, we talking about real boss, mentality. You investing, of course, at that point. So, it's never guaranteed, but the effort, at least you get to eat. So when you put it in, eventually you get to grow. You know what I'm saying? Like, no matter what, everybody's experience is gonna be different. So you gotta trust the process. You gotta know that the littlest, subscriber, the littlest, viewer, that counts towards, your overall at the end of the day. When they looking at your progress, your report card, because it's like you back in school. You gotta make sure that you're tapping into all of the points and go down the line, because it's a list. It's like Santa Claus, but he gonna check it twice. You get more. You get more and more opportunities to do it. So, you can afford to lose if it doesn't, make it into that discovery or that explore. You still wanna be able to put something, into the company, because you understand that, you want to see the plan unfold and unravel, and you want it to be a success. You want it to grow at the end of the day. So sometimes, it's gonna be less. It's not gonna be the most pleasant. You know what I'm saying? But it's cutthroat. It's a cold world. A lot of people, they desperate, for opportunities. When you see that you usually got a little bit of growth, now you could transform it over, a period, and it's actually gonna be so much like potential that you know what I mean, you could build and you could work towards the credentials and you could feel, you know, it's more mental than physical. And the work, it can break you down if you're not checking on your health and, living for you. See, that's one of the most pivotal things that you gotta understand. You gotta be able to take it day by day. You know what I'm saying? And work but you could only carry but so much, with two hands. So this is where everybody who you could trust is gonna come in, you know what I'm saying, and then we all working as a village, to raise up because that's what it's gonna take.
Just a Chick-fil-A Deluxe, no tomato is $5.93 at the window.
Yeah, it is, but the more and more that you live, you understand, how to give and, take, but not go to the point where it's breaking, your back. You know what I'm saying? You still gotta know how to move and how to attract, and you know how to do what you gotta do in the back end. You know what I'm saying? So you understand the move that you gotta be back in. You know what I'm saying? So you can stay out because you're gonna be able to groove. You're gonna party. You're gonna function. That's cool. But understand, you still gotta work. You gotta work out. You gotta have a work ethic. No matter what you're talking about, you still gotta work. But it's different versions and there's ways to twist it. That's gonna be worth down the line, so that you just not listening to jealousy. A lot of people is jealous, so they want to send you the wrong message. You living like in these times, you're supposed to be learning the lessons, but people is not teaching anymore because people is just happy to, have breath and, enjoy the moment because they know we've been getting less and less respect and, positivity. You see more and more death and more people going back and forth, just threatening simple space and company, because this is what happens when, you see wars and, all of those things going on. It takes you out your zone.
Thanks, Oscar.
Yeah, so you know what it is. Want to get out of here before order something else. They went two for the night. Cause I know I wanted to get some cookies or something. Make sure you take care of.
I don't know if they're drinking in the second order.
Can I order just like a cookie?
Excuse me?
Can I order just like a cookie?
Yeah.
You do?
Oh, yeah. Did they not bring the table? Oscar, can you move your feet?
Huh?
Can you move your feet?
No, you good.
There you go. And I'm gonna go get it for you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
My pleasure.
So I'm about to get out of here, guys. Boy, that's a wrap. Live. Today is what? Today gotta be Thursday. Oh, tomorrow. Be outside. Nah. I'm trying to save the youth, man. That's all. One day at a time, family. We gonna get it. You know what I'm saying? They ain't want to see us out here putting in these live streams. We got we got more than we ever needed, dog. So, you know what I'm saying? We just seeing what we see. We keep it pushing, we keep it moving, baby. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, dog. Yeah, nah. You know what I'm saying? That's what it is. Yes. That's true. Thank you for them likes, y'all. Shout out Drizzy.
Gotcha.
Those people who said that what Rick Child did to Cyrus was wrong, yet in the same breath you're defending Carmelo Anthony, saying that he did not deserve to go to prison, and you're rejoicing that Austin Metcalf lost his life. Don't talk to people about what's right and what's wrong. You don't get to talk to people about what's right and what's wrong. Right and wrong. Today is 4th of July. 4th of July, I don't know what the hell, but, you know,